with Queen Noor of Jordan. She's here in the Situation Room. I want to get to the project that you're underway, nuclear non-proliferation, but explain, because you lived in Jordan, obviously, for a long time, how a man like Bashir, who is indicted by the International Criminal Court for atrocities in Darfur, can be received so warmly and protected at these Arab summits.
Well, Darfur is an obscenity, and the sources of that conflict are very complex, but what is happening to people on the ground, and has been happening to people on the ground, is absolutely unacceptable by any norms. What happened, I believe, at this summit is a reflection of Arab concerns about double standards, as was somewhat articulated in the piece there. And were there not so many cases where Western pressure has been brought to bear on Arabs, but Israel, for example's a disproportionate killing of civilians in Gaza during the recent, and also in Lebanon in 2006 during the crisis there. If those cases had not taken place with relatively little Western outcry, you would find a very different attitude, I think, towards what's taking place in Sudan. So it is perverse what is taking place, and it is the result of a perception of double standards. In fact, in reality, double standards in terms of who's held accountable.
But you understand the anger.
Who's held accountable for civilian deaths. You
understand the outrage. Hundreds of thousands of people have been left to be massacred in Darfur, and he gets hugs and kisses.
I call it an obscenity. On the other hand, and I didn't want to get into this subject today, on the other hand, Arabs see, for example, the United States, which is not a signatory to the International Criminal Court, which just held Bashir responsible, see the United States turning a blind eye to what are grotesque violations of international law taking place in the West Bank, in the occupied territories, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, the longest military occupation in recent history.
So we're not going to elaborate on that, but I think I understand how you feel. Let's talk about your current project, because you would like to see the nuclear competition between the United States and Russia eliminated and all those nuclear weapons gone, and you've been involved in a new project.
Well, we see at Global Zero, and we're 100 people who represent former heads of state, foreign ministers, defense ministers, military commanders from the major nuclear nations and others. We see that the world has two directions to move in right now. Either a continued spread of nuclear weapons. 9 countries now have up to 23,000 nuclear weapons, and there's another 40 countries that have enough material to make another 100,000 nuclear weapons. We either continue in that direction, where we risk a country or a terrorist group making use of nuclear weapons, or we move towards Global Zero, which we believe is possible.
Eliminate all nuclear weapons.
Binding, verifiable elimination of nuclear weapons.
Between the United States and Russia, which are the two major nuclear powers.
96% of nuclear weapons are in the hands of the United States
specifically,
and Russia.
It's a great goal, but how do you get there?
Well, we're hoping for, and a lot of work has gone into this, that in this meeting between the Russian president and President Obama,
when they meet tomorrow, President Obama and Medvedev,
that nuclear weapons, I have a hard time with that name too, that nuclear weapons will be on the agenda, that deep cuts can be agreed upon by both of these leaders, that they will seize this historic opportunity to send a signal towards other nuclear nations, and to also reaffirm their commitment, because they both have spelled it out. They have both articulated a commitment to a world free of nuclear weapons.
Tell us who else is on this study, this panel that you've been, the group of 100, as you say.
We have former military commanders of the nuclear, major nuclear states. We have former architects of the nuclear programs in various of the nuclear states. We have the United States, we have Russia, we have Pakistan, we have India, we have France, we have Great Britain, and a multitude of scientists and others on board, former heads of state.
But there's been concern, as you know, and maybe they'll have a new leaf now, that Russia with Putin, Medvedev, that they're becoming more resurgent, looking back nostalgically on the bad old days of the Soviet Union and the Cold War.
On the other hand, both Putin and Medvedev have said that they are committed to working for a world free of nuclear weapons. Both of them have made that commitment, as has President Obama.
So this is your new passion. This issue is your new passion.
Over 100 people who your listeners can go to globalzero.org and sign a declaration that has been signed by well over 100, as I said, former heads of state, foreign ministers, defense ministers, top military commanders from the U.S., Russia, and the other nuclear nations, and others around the world.
We'll have extensive coverage tomorrow. We'll see what happens between these two leaders.
Let's hope for the best.
You're crossing
on
your
many
fingers.
fronts.
Queen Noor of Jordan, thanks for coming in as usual.